Marcus stood outside the small school building, his hands tucked into the pockets of his faded jeans. He wore a plain white shirt, and his white hair was neatly combed back. Other parents were gathered around, chatting and laughing. Marcus stood alone, watching the classroom door. When the door finally opened, little Rachel came out holding a drawing in her hand. Her dark blonde hair bounced with each step, and she wore a white shirt with tiny blue flowers on the collar. She looked around and spotted him. Her face lit up, and she ran toward him. "Hi, Marcus," she said, hugging him around the waist. "Hey, kiddo," he smiled, crouching to her level. "How was school?" "I drew a picture of a rainbow," she said proudly, handing him the paper. "The teacher said it was the best one." Marcus looked at it and nodded. "You're getting better every day." Years ago, Marcus met Claire, Rachel's mom, at the hardware store where he worked. She was a single mother, tired and doing everything alone. They started talking, then dating. Marcus was careful. He knew stepping into a child's life wasn't a small thing. But Rachel made it easy. She asked questions, followed him around the yard, and even helped him fix the squeaky door in the hallway. Before long, she started calling him Dad without anyone asking her to. He never asked for it, but when she did, something inside him shifted. At the dinner table, Claire would smile as Marcus helped Rachel with her homework. "You're better at math than me," she would say. Rachel would giggle and nod. Marcus never missed a school event. He clapped the loudest during Rachel's third-grade play, even when she forgot her lines. He taught her how to ride a bike, how to cook scrambled eggs, and how to stand up for herself when a classmate was mean. Still, there were moments that reminded him he wasn't her biological father. Like when she asked why her skin was lighter than his, or when someone at the grocery store gave them a strange look. Marcus never let it show. He just kept showing up. When Rachel was 10, her school announced a father-daughter dance. Claire sat with the flyer in her hand, unsure if she should ask Marcus. But Rachel didn't wait. "Can you take me?" she asked, looking at him with big, hopeful eyes. Marcus looked at her, then at Claire. "Of course," he said. That night, they danced under soft lights. Rachel wore a shiny blue dress. Marcus wore his best white shirt. They twirled, laughed, and took a photo together that Claire framed on the wall. He may not have been her blood, but he was there. Every day, every time. He didn't know it yet, but one day everything he gave would be questioned in a way that would leave a mark he never expected. Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a stack of bills in front of him. His white shirt had small paint stains on the sleeves from a job he had finished earlier that day. The evening sun came through the window, casting a warm light on his tired face. Claire placed a cup of coffee in front of him and sat down across the table. "She got in," Claire said quietly. Marcus looked up. "She did?" Claire nodded. Her dream school, full acceptance, no scholarship. Marcus leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. He had always known this day would come. He had worked extra shifts, saved what he could, and even skipped vacations to prepare. But the number on the acceptance letter still made his chest feel heavy. "We'll figure it out," he said, more to himself than to Claire. Claire reached for his hand. "We always do." Upstairs, Rachel was dancing around her room, holding the college letter like a trophy. Her dark blonde hair flew around as she played loud music. Her white shirt had tiny red hearts on it. She had no idea the kind of stress that was building downstairs, and Marcus wanted it that way. He didn't want her to carry guilt or feel like a burden. He just wanted her to succeed. A week later, Marcus drove to the bank. He wore the same white shirt and a nervous expression. He met with an advisor and asked how much he could take out of his retirement fund without hurting Claire or himself too badly. "Are you sure about this?" the man asked. "It's for my daughter," Marcus replied. "I'm sure." He walked out with the paperwork signed and a heavy heart, but no regrets. The night before Rachel left for college, they had a small dinner at home. Claire made lasagna, Rachel's favorite. They laughed, took pictures, and shared stories. Marcus didn't mention the money. He didn't need to. She was happy, and that was enough. As Rachel packed her bags, she hugged Marcus tightly. "I'm gonna miss you, Dad." He smiled. "I'll miss you more." Early the next morning, Marcus helped load her things into the car. Claire cried. Marcus kept a strong face, but his chest ached. He watched the car drive away until it disappeared around the corner. Life changed after that. The house felt quieter. The dinner table had an empty seat. Marcus kept busy with work, repairs, and the occasional weekend project. Claire missed Rachel every day, but they both felt proud. Their girl was chasing her dream. At first, Rachel called often. She shared stories, pictures, and updates about her classes. Marcus would listen carefully, nodding even when the phone was on speaker and she couldn't see him. He didn't always understand what she was talking about, but he loved hearing her voice. One day, she called and mentioned a new friend. "His dad owns like 5 businesses," she said, laughing. "They flew to France for spring break." Marcus just chuckled. "Sounds like fun." Rachel continued, "Yeah, everyone here's got money. I don't really talk much about home." They wouldn't get it. Marcus didn't say anything. He knew college was a different world. He just hoped she wouldn't forget who helped her get there. Claire looked at him after the call ended. "You okay?" Marcus nodded. "She's growing up. That's what we raised her to do." But deep down, a small part of him wondered if she still remembered the man who gave up his future for hers. He didn't want praise. He didn't need thanks. But he hoped she'd remember. Just remember, by the end of Rachel's first year at college, things had changed more than Marcus expected. The girl who used to call him every night now only called once a week. And when she did, the calls were short. She often said, "I'm busy, Dad, I'll talk later." At first, Marcus thought she was just adjusting. College was new and demanding. He understood. He kept himself busy at home with small repairs, fixing the fence and cleaning out the garage. Claire reminded him that Rachel was growing up, and this was part of the process. But deep down, Marcus felt it. The distance wasn't just about time. It was something else. When Rachel came home for summer break, Marcus noticed more changes. She had new clothes, spoke differently, and carried herself like someone from another world. She barely mentioned her classes or old friends. Instead, she talked about new people, students from rich families, parties, and expensive vacations. One evening at dinner, Claire made her famous chicken and rice. Rachel picked at the food and said, "At school, we usually eat at nicer places. No offense, Mom." Marcus looked at her surprised. Claire tried to smile, but Marcus saw the hurt in her eyes. Later that night, Claire asked, "Did you notice how she talks now?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah, like she's trying to be someone else." A few weeks later, they attended a small neighborhood barbecue. Neighbors asked how Rachel was doing. Marcus proudly shared updates, her grades, her projects, her dream of starting a small business. Rachel overheard and quickly corrected him. "I'm not doing that anymore. I'm thinking of something bigger now, maybe international business or marketing." Marcus blinked. "Oh, you didn't mention that." "I forgot," Rachel shrugged. "You wouldn't really understand it anyway." Marcus stayed quiet, but the words hit him harder than he showed. She didn't mean to sound cold, but she did, and she didn't notice it. That night, he sat on the porch, staring at the stars. Claire joined him. "She's just trying to fit in," Claire said softly. "She's in a different world now." "But does that mean she has to forget where she came from?" Marcus asked. "Or who helped her get there?" Before the summer ended, Rachel invited some college friends over. Marcus was excited to meet them, but when they arrived, she barely introduced him. Just a quick, "This is Marcus," and that was it. No dad. No, he raised me. Nothing. The guests treated Marcus like a stranger. Polite smiles, small nods, then back to their conversations. Marcus excused himself after a while and went to the garage. Inside, he sat on an old bench and stared at the photo on the wall. It was the picture from the father-daughter dance. They were both smiling, both happy. She had called him Dad that night. Now she barely said his name. Later that evening, Claire came into the garage. "I saw your face," she said. "I'm fine," Marcus replied. "You're not," Claire said gently. "But I see you. I know what you've done for her." Marcus nodded. "I just want her to remember. Not the money. Not the favors. Just me." He didn't say anything else. Rachel had no idea how far she was drifting, and Marcus didn't know that soon the world would see how far she had gone. A single sentence was about to change everything. During her second year at college, Rachel became close with a new group of friends. They were wealthy, loud, and always talked about private schools, family money, and vacations to Europe. They wore designer clothes and drove luxury cars. Rachel slowly began to change more. She didn't talk about her hometown much. She never invited her friends home. And when someone asked about her family, she kept it short. One night, Rachel went to a party at a large house near campus. The music was loud, and students were everywhere, dancing, laughing, taking photos and videos. Someone asked Rachel, "So who raised you? Your dad rich too?" Rachel laughed. She was a little drunk, her mind spinning, her heart eager to fit in. She waved her hand and said, "Nah, not really. He's not even my real dad. Just my mom's babysitter or something." People around her laughed. Someone said, "Wow, that's wild." Another person pulled out their phone and said, "Say that again. I'm putting this on my story." Rachel repeated it, laughing. "He's just the babysitter. Seriously." That short clip, no more than 10 seconds, got posted on someone's story. Then it got saved and shared again. Back home, Claire was folding laundry when her friend called. "Check your phone," she said. "Is that Rachel?" Claire watched the video with shaking hands. She didn't know what to say. Marcus was fixing the sink when she walked in. "You need to see this," she said quietly. He wiped his hands and took the phone. He pressed play. Rachel's voice echoed through the kitchen. "He's just the babysitter, seriously." Marcus didn't blink. He handed the phone back and walked out of the room. Claire followed, her voice trembling. "Marcus, please." Maybe she didn't mean it. But he didn't respond. He went to the garage, sat on the old bench, and stared at the photo of the dance again. Later that evening, he didn't speak much. Claire tried to make dinner, but Marcus wasn't hungry. He sat on the porch for hours, staring into the dark. The next day, Rachel called like nothing had happened. Marcus didn't pick up. She called again, then Claire. "Hey, Mom," Rachel said, cheerful. "Just checking in." "Rachel," Claire said firmly, "what did you say at that party?" Rachel froze. "What are you talking about?" "We saw the video." There was a long silence. "It was a joke," Rachel said quietly. "They were all joking. I didn't mean it." "Do you think Marcus is laughing?" Claire asked. Rachel didn't know what to say. "He's the reason you're in college. He paid for it. He worked for it. He gave up so much for you. And you called him a babysitter." Rachel's voice broke. "I didn't mean." "I think you should talk to him," Claire said, then ended the call. Rachel sat alone in her dorm room, suddenly feeling like a stranger to herself. She thought about all the times Marcus helped her, all the sacrifices he made. She remembered the warm dinners, the hugs, the stories, the nights he waited up for her. And now she had erased all of it in 10 seconds. In one sentence, she had thrown away years of love, time, and sacrifice. And Marcus? He had always stayed silent, always been strong. But this time, the silence was different. This time, it hurt more than any words ever could. Rachel came home 3 days after the video spread around. She didn't tell anyone she was coming. She just packed her bag, caught a bus, and sat in silence the whole ride. Her hands were shaking, her stomach tight. She knew she had messed up. Badly. When she stepped into the house, it felt colder than before. Claire was in the kitchen, washing dishes. She turned and looked at Rachel without smiling. "He's in the garage," Claire said quietly. "He hasn't said much since the video." Rachel nodded, her eyes already filling with tears. She slowly walked toward the garage. The door creaked as she opened it. Marcus was sitting on the same old bench, wearing his white shirt, his white hair looking even more tired now. He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on the tools in front of him. "Hi," Rachel said, her voice small. Marcus didn't answer. She stepped closer. "I came home to talk." Still nothing. "I know what I said was wrong," she whispered. "I didn't mean it." Marcus finally spoke, "But you said it." Rachel's lips trembled. "They were joking. I was trying to fit in." He looked at her now. His eyes weren't angry. They were hurt, deeper than she had ever seen. "Fit in by throwing me away?" he asked. "By calling me a babysitter?" Rachel wiped her eyes. "I didn't know they would post it." "But you said it," he repeated. "You meant it enough to laugh." She sat down on the bench beside him. "You're not just a babysitter. You're my dad. You've always been." He looked down at his hands. "I didn't raise you for praise. I never wanted anything back. But hearing those words, after everything, it broke something inside me." Rachel nodded. "I understand, and I hate myself for it." Marcus looked at her, quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Do you even know what I gave up for you?" Rachel shook her head slowly. "I used my retirement to pay for your college," he said. "I didn't want you to know because I didn't want you to feel pressure. But now it feels like I was just a fool." Rachel covered her mouth, shocked. "You did what?" "Everything I had saved," he said. "I gave it up because you had a dream, and because I believed in you." Rachel broke down crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered again and again. Marcus stood up. "I need time. I'm not sure if this is something I can forget." Rachel stayed on the bench, crying into her hands. The weight of her words, her actions, her silence after the video, all of it was crushing her. Later that night, Claire brought Marcus his dinner in the garage. "She's not the same girl anymore," he said. "She's still your daughter," Claire replied gently. "She just lost her way." Marcus didn't answer. In her room, Rachel looked at old photos of Marcus helping her with homework, fixing her bike, holding her hand on the first day of school. She had taken all of that for granted, and now she didn't know if she could ever fix it. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after something is broken. And for the first time, Rachel wasn't sure if sorry would be enough. The next morning, Rachel woke up early. She hadn't slept much. Her pillow was still damp from crying. She got out of bed, slowly walked to the living room, and sat on the couch. She could hear Marcus outside in the backyard, working on something. Claire was in the kitchen, quietly making breakfast. Rachel stood up and walked to the window. She saw Marcus fixing the wooden fence. He worked with focus, just like always. His white shirt was already stained with dirt. His white hair moved a little in the wind. He looked tired, but steady. She watched him and felt ashamed. She had forgotten what kind of man he was. Not a rich man, not a man with big words, but a man who always showed up, always worked hard, always loved her like his own. Later that day, Rachel walked through the neighborhood alone. She passed the corner store where Marcus used to buy her ice cream, the park where he taught her to ride a bike, the library where he helped her pick out books every weekend. Every place held a memory. Every step reminded her of who had raised her. When she got back home, she asked Claire, "Can I see that letter?" "Which one?" Claire asked. "The college one," Rachel said. "The one that said I got in." Claire went to her drawer and pulled it out. Rachel sat at the table and opened it. This time she looked at it differently. Not as a victory, but as a gift. A gift she didn't earn alone. She turned to Claire. "Did Dad really use his retirement money?" Claire nodded slowly. "We didn't want to tell you. We wanted you to focus on your future. Marcus said it was worth it, just to see you walk across that stage one day." Rachel felt her throat tighten. "I need to make it right." That evening she sat down and wrote a letter. It wasn't short. It wasn't easy, but she poured her heart into every word. She told Marcus the truth, how much he meant to her, how sorry she was, and how proud she was to have been raised by him. When she finished, she walked to the garage and found him sitting on the bench again. "I wrote something," she said, holding out the letter. Marcus looked at it but didn't reach for it. "Please," she said. "Just read it when you're ready." She left it on the bench and walked away. The next morning, the letter was gone. Rachel waited the whole day, but Marcus didn't say anything. That night, he walked into her room quietly. He looked tired, but something in his face had softened. "I read your letter," he said. Rachel sat up straight. "And?" Marcus nodded. It hurt, but it also helped. Rachel stood up. "I meant every word. I don't want to be someone I'm not. Not anymore. I want to be your daughter. For real." Marcus looked at her and said, "You always were." He stepped forward and hugged her. It wasn't quick. It wasn't forced. It was real. Tears rolled down Rachel's cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "Make me one promise," Marcus said. "Anything." "Never be ashamed of your roots again," he said. "Never forget who loves you." She nodded. "I won't." Outside the room, Claire smiled quietly to herself. Inside, the silence between them was finally gone. A few days later, Rachel packed her bags to return to college. This time, it felt different. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't trying to escape. She hugged Claire tight before leaving and then turned to Marcus. "Can you take me to the station?" she asked. He gave a small nod. "Sure." The ride was quiet at first. The city passed by in flashes, but Rachel kept looking at Marcus. He drove calmly, his hands steady on the wheel. The same hands that once held her handlebars, packed her school lunches, and fixed her shoes when they broke. "Thank you for driving me," she said. Marcus gave a small smile. "Of course." Just before they reached the station, Rachel pulled something out of her bag. It was the photo from the father-daughter dance, now in a new frame. She handed it to him. "I want you to keep this," she said, "or put it somewhere everyone can see." Marcus looked at the photo and then at her. "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "That night meant everything to me. I just forgot for a while. I won't forget again." At the station, they hugged. This time, Marcus held her a little longer. "You'll do well," he said. "Only because of you," she replied. On the way back to college, Rachel kept thinking, not about her classes or her friends, but about how easy it had been to forget the people who mattered. She knew she couldn't undo the past, but she could do better going forward. When she returned to campus, her friends asked about her trip home. "It was important," Rachel said. "I had to fix something." One friend joked, "Did your babysitter miss you?" Rachel didn't laugh. She looked them in the eyes and said, "He's not my babysitter. He's my dad. He raised me. He paid for this place, and he gave up his future so I could have mine." The group went quiet. No more jokes followed. Later that week, Rachel spoke to her class during a project on personal stories. She stood in front of the room and shared everything. "My dad isn't rich. He doesn't own a company. But he gave me something more important than money. He gave me love, time, and sacrifice. I forgot that once, and it nearly broke us. But now I remember." Her professor clapped. The class followed. After class, several students came up to her. One said, "Thanks for sharing. I've been ashamed of my family too. Not anymore." Another said, "Your story really hit me. Your dad sounds amazing." Rachel smiled. "He is." Weeks passed, and Rachel kept in touch more. She called Marcus often, sometimes just to talk about nothing. He'd always say, "You okay?" And she'd always say, "Better now." One day, Claire sent her a photo. Marcus had placed the dance picture right on the living room shelf. Next to it, he had written a small note that said, "My daughter's biggest fan." Rachel looked at the photo and cried. She finally understood something deep. Love doesn't always come with fancy gifts or loud words. Sometimes it's quiet. It shows up early, stays late, and sacrifices without needing praise. And from now on, she would never hide that love again. Because Marcus was never just her mom's partner. He was and always would be her dad. Months passed. It was Rachel's final year of college, and graduation day was getting closer. She had worked hard, stayed focused, and kept her promise. Every week she called Marcus. Sometimes they talked for just a few minutes, other times for an hour, but every call mattered. One day, Rachel got an email from the college asking if she wanted to give a short speech at graduation. Her grades were strong, and her story had touched many after the personal project she shared. She said yes. For weeks, she thought about what to say. Most students would thank their teachers or talk about their dreams. Rachel wanted to do something different. She wanted to do something for Marcus. On the day of graduation, the sun was bright and the air warm. Claire wore a blue dress. Marcus wore his best white shirt. His white hair was neatly brushed, and his eyes were filled with quiet pride. They sat in the crowd, holding hands, waiting for Rachel's name to be called. When it was finally her turn to speak, Rachel walked to the stage with calm steps. She looked out at the sea of faces, then at Marcus and Claire sitting in the front row. She took a deep breath. Some of you know me as a student of business. Some of you know me from class or group projects. But today, I want to tell you about someone who isn't standing on this stage but deserves to be. The crowd became quiet. When I was a little girl, someone stepped into my life. He wasn't my biological father. He didn't have to raise me. He didn't have to show up. But he did. Every single day. Marcus lowered his head, already feeling emotional. He helped with homework, cooked meals, fixed everything in the house, and stayed up when I was sick. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to be strong, and how to never give up. When it came time for college, he gave up his own savings, his future, just so I could have mine. Rachel's voice shook slightly, but she kept going. I made a mistake once, a big one. I forgot who he was to me. I let people's words and opinions change how I saw him. And I said something that hurt him deeply. But he forgave me, because that's the kind of man he is. She paused and looked right at Marcus. Today, I graduate because of you. And today, the world will hear it from me clearly. You are my dad, and I am proud to be your daughter. The crowd clapped, then stood. Claire was already wiping tears. Marcus sat frozen for a second, then slowly stood too. His eyes were full of tears, but he smiled. After the ceremony, students and families came up to Marcus. You must be so proud, one woman said. Your daughter gave the best speech, said another. Marcus only nodded, too full of emotion to say much. Rachel ran into his arms, hugging him tight. I meant every word, she said. He whispered, I know. They took photos together, laughed, and stayed until the sun began to set. Later, when they returned home, Rachel helped hang her graduation photo in the living room, right next to the old father-daughter dance picture. Above both photos, she placed a small note that read, Raised with love, not blood. Marcus smiled every time he walked past it. Rachel had made sure the world knew who he was. Not just the man who paid for her school, not just the one who showed up, but her father, always and forever.